Yes. All right. Okay. Screen. Can you see my screen? Ah, okay. All right. So the last session we stopped here.
Francis,
Yes.
there is an echo. Maybe you should turn off the volume and the mic on one side. Are you using two computers?
Yes. But can you hear it now?
There is an echo.
You got a bit, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just use the computer audio. It will be the same.
It's fine. Just put my speaker down.
Oh, this is good now.
Yeah, it's okay.
Mm.
Oh, okay. So the last session we stopped here, and the last line was, however, we hope to follow the path. We must recognize that the spiritual life must first be a clean life. Okay, who wants to read the next paragraph?
I can read it.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
A clean life. A clean life includes speaking truthfully and kindly, acting fairly, earning a living honestly and usefully, thinking about others with goodwill, and being cheerful in the midst of problems. These are simple qualities, but the ethical life is basically simple and obvious. There is nothing secret or mysterious about it.
Thank you, Chris. Huh. So can anyone remember, based on our discussions before, is there any of these points, speaking truthfully and kindly, acting fairly, and earning a living honestly and usefully, were all these actually things that we thought of when we read about, when we were studying about a clean life?
I like that it brings out the being cheerful in the midst of problems. This is in several places. I think there's 6 parameters or 7 in the Theosophical Society, and this cheerfulness whenever. I think it is for me, it really shows a person that's advanced, who can be sincerely like a cheerful, or who does not get depressed so easily.
So, thank you. So on this point, can anyone add on to a comment that why cheerfulness is important in the midst of problems? Oh, sweat.
Yeah, well, this is not the point that I thought about when I was reading about clean life. But I think it's like what Marika says, it's like the second level, you know. The first level is you do what is right in every situation, like you carry the burden honestly. But then next level, you also do it with a smile and you try to also radiate good things to others, to the world. It takes some kind of maybe a bit more advanced wisdom or self-mastery or something like that. And I would like to understand it more, actually, this point, or how it is connected, cheerfulness with clean life, exactly. But it comes to me that I think in Christianity there is a point that being kind of downhearted or depressed, gloomy, these things is a kind of a sin, actually.
Hmm.
I think I'm not a specialist in that area, but I heard it several times, this point. Thank you.
It's kind of a sin. Who first? Mary Kay first or Leo first?
I just very quickly
Okay.
just remind what Svetislav says, like he don't that I think it was at the feet of the master where it says you always have to be like a cheerful because sometimes the master wants to pour into you like a power so you can help to solve the problems, but he cannot do it if you're depressed on the situation. So you have to be yourself, at least you will not let yourself take the emotions and be like a turmoil. If you can be at least calm, you don't have to be especially cheerful, but at least calm in a situation, then through you can come something that helps all the situation to solve. So yeah, the happiness or the cheerfulness is like a next level, but first at least not let yourself get totally evolved with them emotions. Yes. Yeah.
I think about it in terms of the thought forms. Like when I remember when I was depressed, I have a lot of negative thoughts. And I think in that sense, it is the clutteredness. I think we discussed about clutter in terms of neatness, and cleanness is one adjacent. That, yeah, it is very dirty in that sense. And therefore, to connect to what America mentioned, then none of the divine forces can come through because it's just too cluttered.
Chris, thank
Yeah,
you.
that was exactly what I was also thinking. So I agree with Slav and Enrique and Leo. So cleanliness is just not on the physical plane, it's also in the emotional and the mental plane. So if we're being negative in the midst of our problems, like what Leo and Enrique was saying, we're creating thought forms that bring on more negative things and it affects other people. So the clean life encompasses all. We have to be clean in our thoughts. We have to be pure in our thoughts. We have to be pure in, or at least we have to try and pure with our emotions and not just physically clean.
Thank you, Chris. Leo?
I think that your microphone.
No, we don't hear. The mic is off.
Okay, so I think that being cheerful here in the midst of problems seems to me that this gratitude, they take life as what it is. So even though we recognize problems, but it doesn't really matter because life itself is a mystery and it's a miracle. And the moments that we get upset with something is a sign that we are contradictory or we are conflicting with ourselves deep within ourselves. So that kind of contradiction or confliction is just the confliction or contradiction between our lower self and our higher self, or our true self. And I'm pretty sure that's all the negative emotions. Most likely they are coming from the lower self. The higher self doesn't contain those kind of thoughts. So being cheerful here is just a state where your true self can shine. So if you live true to yourself and you don't have any personal or selfish think about me, then I don't think that there will be any kind of problems that can upset us.
Thank you. I think this is a really, you guys have actually put up very good points, right? It's not just the aspect of it's not just really about how we are working through purifying, right? Because the thing is, a lot of times all these practices and values are emphasized. But like what Mary Kay has said, divine energy, or maybe energies from the higher ones, usually goes through people or aspiring workers, or even anyone that are close to the path. as long as we are in a good state or in a useful state, I wouldn't say good, in a useful or proper state, energies can flow through us. And that's one aspect, right? That is like a passive work, right? We don't have to constantly think about pouring forth. We just be in that state and it happens, passive. And then there's a part where, especially for me, I think if we are cheerful in the midst of problems, we do not incur extra, like in the form like what you guys said about thought forms, right? Emanating and disrupting people or even amplifying other people's similar emotions. And also not committing any kind of reactive, irreversible actions. Right? Sometimes we have problems, we become frustrated. Right? And we may actually be very bitter the way we speak to people. It's not just like the energy aspect, it's also how we function. And we could maybe like kick a plant or something and then the plant dies. It's all these are irreversible. So I think like this cheerful thing, this aspect of cheerfulness is on many levels. Really many levels. And okay. And this part about let's explore, okay, all these points. I honestly haven't thought about earning a living honestly, but I do know like it is one of the precepts, right, in Buddhism. Is one of the precepts, and I suppose all these might contribute to each other into clean life. But anyone has any comment to add on to all these points? Acting fairly. What does it actually even mean? What does fairly means? Right. It is a very big spectrum. Maybe we can discuss about acting fairly. What does acting fairly mean to you? In medical.
I was thinking, I think acting fairly is one of the things is like, let's say games or board games or thing. When you played as a child or so, and there's a like a possibility where you could, I don't know, kind of cheat to win. And then there's a possibility that you can see that you could, but you don't. And then there's a possibility you notice that I accidentally cheated. And if I tell them to others, I will lose, but you do it anyway because you know it's the right thing to do because it's not about the winning. And one time I did it, and in the end, very mysteriously, I win. But I think it's the attitude, acting fairly, that even if you put yourself in a bad situation, you know it is serving the better good, and this is the right thing to do. Yeah.
Thank you. Leo?
Well, I think that acting fairly is quite subjective because something I think it is fair, but somebody else may think that is unfair. So let's say if there's someone that I know and then they need something and then I help that person because to me, I think it is fair to help that person. But when I help that person, it causes more consequences for another 10 other people, something like that. So is it fair for me to help one person, but in the end, it's going to cause more consequences for the other 10 people? Let's put this into a workplace example. Your coworker, you're very close with them, you try to help them something, but at the end of the day, because you help them to do something, it causes more workload for the other 10 coworkers. So who's going to be fair here? Are you fair with your worker or are you fair with the other 10 co-workers? So to me, acting fairly is very subjective. And I think the only direction at least it works for me, is that just do the best that we can, because we all know that we are all conditioned. Sometimes we think it is fair, but actually maybe it's not that fair, but it's okay, just make mistakes. And then later on, gradually we learn little by little. And hopefully, if we be honest to ourselves, stick to the discipline, one day we may act fairer than we acted previously. So it's just like non-going stuff. It doesn't have like a destination. This is fair and the rest is not fair. That's my thought.
Thank you. Anyone wants to add on to that? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think a lot depends on motivation, right? Because if motivation is sincere and pure, then it's more important than the external way of action, I think.
Thank you. Any more to add on? Leo.
I think Leo shared in the first time we met, I think, in Adiaranen, you mentioned that, or Leo mentioned that something that sticks with him. Kindness is a capacity in the sense that somebody that is bigger hearted can be kinder. So I think in this sense, it is similar. Acting fairly is in a matter of capacity, in the sense that how how far can we stretch being fair to a more number of people, in the most absolute sense that what I do right now has actually can think of the consequence to all the humanity, and therefore that's the one that I choose, and then that is the highest. But of course that is not where I am, so then like I shall stretch myself to be fair to as many people around me that I have the capacity for at this point of time, and that's what I will do.
Thank you.
In aspiration, at least.
Oh, that's a good point. Mary Kay or Vignesh?
Just wanted to add what Leonardo's just said. The fairliness, I was just thinking, somebody in the movies, you can see very often that, somebody kills somebody's brother or father and they want revenge because it's fair to have then kill somebody on their family. Like the fairness is like if he cheated, it's fair that I cheat also. Like people see the fairness in like differently. What one considers fair, it's like yeah, this is what everyday life teaches. So to add what Leonardo said, fairness, in a sense, I also feel that it benefit like the most like people or living beings who are connected with this decision or doing. Yeah, like I was thinking about this situation that Leo described before about the co-worker, and I'm thinking, okay, you helped, and thanks to that, 10 people are getting more workload. But if because of that workload, 100 more people will get some benefit, then I would say it is justified. But if it's just 10 more people get workload and it will not benefit anything, then I understand. But again, the motivation that Svetoslav mentioned, that if your motivation is pure to help that person, that then even if whatever is the outcome, you have created in a karmic level something good, because we cannot like be responsible 100% what comes out, because there's many things evolve with that, but we can always like be responsible for our own motivation. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, that's a good one. Chris?
I agree with Leo that it's a bit subjective, and I think there's an entire like philosophy or subject wherein we're just trying to figure out what fairness is, and sometimes there's different terms for it, like equality is different from justice, from fairness, etc. So I was just thinking about your question, what is it for me personally? How would I define for myself acting fairly? Well, I'm not saying that that this is like a standard answer or anything like that. But for me right now, I think I heard before a saying, I forgot who mentioned this quote, but it's from a philosopher that justice or being fair is treating equals as equals and treating unequals as unequals. So for example, if all of us are working in a company and we all should be entitled to the same benefits. It can't be that I have a health insurance and then another person doesn't have health insurance. All of us, because we're all employees, it's only fair that we should all have the same benefits. But there are times when we are not equals, even though we're all employees. So, for example, if it's like time to check for our performance assessment for our performance bonus, so of course, the person who produced more or who contributed more to the success of a project, it's only fair that they should give more, they should get more rewards, right? Compared to a person who only did well or a person who slacked off. So for me personally, I try to do that, to think if I'm comparing two people or two things or two subjects, are they really equal? Are they really apples to apples or not? Or one deserves something better because something is different or they contributed more than another person. Of course, like Leota says, we're all trying to figure it out. So we're not all perfect, but we're striving to get there. And I think we still have a long way to go. I think that's why we have judges. That's why we have the entire justice system. We have people who negotiated other people. It's because of this, because fairness, we really don't have a concrete idea of what fairness is yet, but we're trying to get there. We're striving to get there.
Thank you, Chris. Leo?
Yeah, just add on to the motivation parts. I think that's the right start, but it's not enough. So if everybody just say, I have good motivation, who gonna say that? You know, God is the only one who can judge, because we may not know whether it's a true motivation or not. And let's say if a person has the right motivation, but this paragraph here, it's talk all about action, speak, act, earn, think. So it's all actions. That means that after the motivation part, what is next? So my suggestion, it could work maybe for me, is that the motivation is there, but think about it more carefully before we execute or before we act. Because we cannot say, I have a good motivation, okay, I just do. And then at the end of the day, I create more problems for the other 10 workers or the 100 co-workers to fix my mess. Of course, I know this is a learning lesson for every single one, but motivation, think about it, and then act. I think that's the right process for me.
Thank you. Well, I think all of you made very good points. I think to sum it all, what I can see is like motivations or intent has various levels. Right. I think Mary Kay mentioned just now about you may be actually doing something that is going to benefit more people than the 10 people that gets affected. But then yet at the same time, what Leonardus and Leo said about the capacity, right? How much can we do? I mean, like, we definitely can consider the whole humankind, okay? But the thing is, can we actually do it or not? There is always sort of like a physical and energy limitation, resource limitations. And I think these two, like if you actually plot it on a graph, I think there will be a sweet spot, right? We can impact or help this amount of people at the level that we can help at the maximum. And of course, the purity of the motivation, right? There are people that could do good stuff, right? seemingly good stuff, like some of the charity stuff or things like that, but maybe they have different intents, right? But you have the purity of intent, you have the intent at whichever level, and then how much can you commit instead of like within the boundary, our capacity. So I think we have like 3 dimensions for consideration of acting careful, fairly, or in whichever way we should be. Right. Of course, like even acting also can be truthful and kind. So it's like, this is almost like a combined together. And then all this goes into also earning a living. I think ultimately there is something that no one else will. There is something that everyone will be involved. It's always about earning a living, right? Regardless, we can make a living out of making our salary. There could be people that ask for food. It's also making a living, right? It's not making money. It's different. So I think this is something very, very practical and very important to think about. And yeah. Anyone want to add on to this paragraph? We move to the next one.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about earning a living honestly and usefully? What does it mean by usefully?
I would say helping others.
Thanks, B. Chris?
Yeah. Well, it's one of the Reiki principles, actually. The third principle, just for today. Sometimes they translate it as just for today, I will work hard. Sometimes they say just for today, I will earn a living honestly. The way it was explained is that you earn a living usefully, meaning you dedicate yourself to a particular profession or line of work that helps people or society in general. So you don't earn a living by becoming a drug lord. You don't earn a living by kidnapping people or killing people, or you don't like put up slaughterhouses where you harm other living beings. You could put up, like, for example, you could work as a nurse, as an accountant, as a banker, a profession that has great usefulness for other people as well as for society. And then you earn a living honestly. You don't steal in your place of work. You don't try to enrich yourself at the expense of others, so you don't become like a corrupt politician or something. You just try to work hard and you earn a living by doing something that benefits other people as well as society.
Thanks, Chris. Medicaid?
Yes, so basically, I mean, you could work in a cafeteria, but let's see, in this cafeteria they're selling cigarettes and alcohol, and this is part of your job, and then or you're serving some meat dishes, and you one moment you serve vegetarian and you feel like this is not being honest to myself, like how can I do this if I'm not using those things. So I feel in that sense, if I reach that point in my life, I will change and go to work in some place where they don't sell alcohol, where I don't serve the meat dishes. Usually also I can be in a firm and do something and I got a good salary. At the same time, I could be somewhere else, like be a teacher or do some work that's taking me a lot and gives less money. But if you think the karmic consequences of this work is so much more important, that it helps the world more, that in that sense it's useful. I can do like a commercial or something, or I don't know, I can do something that pays me off and I can have a luxurious life, but at the same time I can do something that after a day I'm so tired, but at the same time I have really done some benefit of this world. and to other human beings with the work I've done. Although, you know, maybe the salary is not the same, but the usefulness of this thing is what is important in that sense.
Thank you, Barry. I think this has something to do with understanding our dharma. Is that right? Sounds like it, huh? I think this is like a very, very long debate for myself as well about earning a living honestly and usefully. And I think recently I have realized, at least for myself, is that we should be contributing to the world or to the world what we can do best. Right? I mean, like I have hands and legs. I can go and sweep the floor. I can I can do many things. But what is our dharma? What is the thing that because of our abilities, potential, talents, that we can give the most to the world? Of course, there's caveat, right? Like for example, you watch the movie Oppenheimer. It's like, oh my gosh, he's so talented that he can have a team and all these create technologies that are beyond their time. But then it's abused, right? And of course, there is also aspects of, because I used to work in the defense industry as well, I often think about to what extent should I put my resource into it? Because ultimately, one day, it will definitely end in something that I wouldn't want to happen, right? I used to design stuff for the army, and then they are starting to sell it overseas. And it's not just like to peace, like selling it to Switzerland, okay? It's selling it to US, selling it to Korea, and maybe possibly in areas of Middle East. And that is when I quit. When they started to sell my design, okay, that's when I quit. So I always have a question to myself as well. When is it too much? Right? I think Mary Kay, you were mentioning like, you could be selling, you can be working at a cafeteria that sells alcohol and tobacco. But the thing is, sometimes that is like if you have no choice, you have to work in those in this profession. I think there will come a time that when your contribution to that industry has saturated, I think karma will bring us something that will move on, right? It's not so much about like, is my decision now right or not? If we can't, then we just leave it until it will come a time that we have to move on. That it will be so painful not to move on. Okay, Leo.
Yeah, the reason why I asked the question, earn a living honestly and usefully, especially the word usefully, because I'm curious. So we are here. I can say that we are privileged people, okay? Office workers. We have our beautiful life. But let's say a person who works as a butcher, cut meats and sell meats every day. So he speaks truthfully, he's kind, he acts fairly, he makes a living honestly, he doesn't steal anyone, he doesn't make any stealing stuff like that. He just simply like a butcher. So what does it mean by earning a living usefully for him? So for me, I may be wrong, but the word usefully here to me is more like responsibly and do the best that you can. Let's say even if you are just a janitor, even if you are a butcher, that's karma brought you into this life to become a butcher. All you can do is just do the best of your job. And then if you think one day, if you think that you don't want to be a butcher anymore, you don't want to see meat, you don't want to kill animals anymore, it seems like there's a change in your perception, then you will start to take action to make a change. So back to the point, usefully here means responsibly. That's at least responsibly to the best that we can. I think that's my interpretation of the usefully word.
Thank you. Leo?
Me, right? Yeah. To add to what Leo mentioned, that um, because this appears in the golden stairs, so it just brings my mind into the fact that usefully in terms of the level of development of each of us. Also, that in the example of the butcher, if the person is not studying or not coming in touch with the understanding that killing is wrong and it is not yet in that development of the person, then there's nothing wrong with that at all. But if, let's say, I am, because I'm trying to figure out what I want to do next, and then being a butcher is not amongst my option, because then yeah, at at least for my understanding right now, it is not con it's not useful, and the opposite of useful in that sense from what I understand. So it will be wrong for me to choose that as a career, and therefore, yeah, it's against this useful, and what's the other one? Making a living that is honest and useful. And I wouldn't be honest also then, because then I say in this discussion that it is wrong, but then like I live in that way. So yeah.
Thank you. Sweat?
Yeah, I think useful is always, well, it implies there is like a system of moral values that is attached to that, or like a coordinate, like according to what? Useful according to what? If you borrow your moral standards from the society is one story, but then as you develop, you can leave them behind, and your moral standards can be other than what the society has, and then you will have to act differently, right? So it develops as you develop. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I realize there's another point I want to make. Right, I think most of us, we are referring on the individual level, right? Yes, I mean, like, it's important to discern the choices. What are we considering about? But it reminds me, I like when Shred was talking, I was reminded about Noah's Ark. I mean, like, they'll say that there's God is telling me to do something, okay? But the thing is, everyone will think that is crazy. But somehow there is a kind of intuition that would compel you to do some kind of work. And well, I like thumbs up myself. And the thing is, I think the part about the example about butcher, it makes me think about it's not just about working our karma. I mean, like, we can understand it on our personal level. But to be able to see on a bigger picture, the butcher has to supply food for those that haven't realized that vegetarians is important. And if one day all the butchers just say that I quit, okay, and the slaughterhouse say I quit, and all
How
the cattle
beautiful.
ranchers, oh, of course that would be nice. But the thing is, it might cause chaos, right? It's like saying that, oh, let's stop drilling oil altogether in the world. The power plants might shut down. There are countries that are not ready for such. The infrastructure is not ready for such kind of thing. It might be a shock. So I think all this has its own nature, has its own speed and pace, right? On everything, right? Oil and gas, that's good, right? I mean, in the past we see that it's a lot of problem, but we know there's more and more EVs. But creating more and more electrical vehicles creates more carbon as well, right? There's so many things happening all together, but we are still, at least we're progressing. We are not staying stagnant. Yeah, Vignesh, you have anything to add on? You see at the front.
What about like a butcher in Alaska, a place where you don't have vegetables? What if that's the only thing you can eat? What if you have to fish I mean, you can't. It's very subjective. I think as long as you do something that adds value to the world, to the society, to well, not just humanity, to the world at large, and you live an honest life, and 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 you don't look to uh, take advantage, advance yourself at the cost of others. I think that is what it means. You may be in a position to live a more moral life, but it usually depends on the circumstances. It's never really under your control, right? But as long as, sorry,
No, I just say yes.
right. So as long as you're doing the best you can in the circumstances you are in, I think that's what it.
Yeah, I think that you get the right points. The reason why I brought up the butcher here was because of my nature of my business. I deal a lot of immigrants, and some of them, their only way of living is to be in a slaughterhouse or being a butcher.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that earning a living honestly and usefully exclude those kind of people. They may be a butcher, but they may be much better than us in his heart. He may be purer than us. So that's why I want to bring the example in for us to actually examine what the word usefully means to us. If we are, let's say we are 9 to 5 workers, are we really working usefully? Are we really doing our best? So for me, I bring this example in just like a self-inquiry for myself. And hopefully if you like it, you can ask yourself as well. Because at the end of the day, the butcher has his own work to do. It's his dharma. Just like Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, he has to kill his relative. That's what he needs to do. His dharma. The butcher has his own job. I have my own job. Sweat has his own job. Everyone needs to contribute something in the whole universe. So as long as we do the best that we can, and we always inspire or aspire to a higher values, higher ideals. I want to be better. One day I want to be this. Think for other people. Then I think sooner or later we will reach them.
Thank you.
Also, this point,
Vignesh.
sorry, go first. Sorry.
Oh, no, if you continue, then please, Vignesh.
No, you were first. Please go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was thinking that next time when we want to complain, we can be thankful that we are not a butcher in Alaska, because you can't do that job and you can't quit the job because people will get hungry. And I think it tells us that absolute rules in our earthly life are almost impossible. There is always an exception. There is always something there that is not like that. So common sense. Everywhere is common sense. But I think that for everyone there is like a ladder leading up to better life, to better karma. So if we are speaking about the butcher, then only if there is no other option, only if there is no other way, then yes, do your job honestly, but always keep an eye out. There may be a way, a way to escape for you from that, and then hopefully better life will begin. And but not at the expense of others. That is also true. I think it can be related to soldiers also in some way, in some situations, and yeah, something like that.
What if you're a soldier in any of the current wars? How do you do your job usefully? I mean, how do you do that? How do you fight usefully as a Russian?
Yeah, first of all, like moral level is the most important. So first of all, sort out as much as you only can moral aspect of
But
that.
do you
Make
have
sure
the
that you
space?
are doing something good.
Do you have the space to act morally? What if your family is under threat and you cannot afford to act morally?
Then the choice is very quick.
You make a sacrifice.
Yeah, protecting is the moral choice, yes. But if you have a choice, then make sure that you are morally in the best position possible. The rest is less consequential, I think.
Right. I was going to comment on something that Mary Kay said. So if you choose to, you say you quit your job as an accountant in a big firm and you choose to work for a non-profit, and yeah, you're doing you're doing good work, let's say, but you are accepting donations from, say, a weapons manufacturing company, or a car manufacturer, paint manufacturing company, all these morally not so great, you know, enterprises. What does that mean? How do you think of, because even we here in the TS, we accept donations when we don't really see who we are accepting donations from. And essentially we are using money earned through questionable means often to do good work. But how do you filter that? I don't really have an opinion as such, but I just want to put it up for discussion.
I think this is a good point, right? Like to what extent what we do is evil, what we are involved with is evil, right? I think every single cent that we receive in our bank accounts definitely touch something not so appropriate spiritually, 100%, right? You think about it, even when you transfer your money, your own money, you transfer it out. The electricity comes from the oil that was burnt, okay? That was drilled out from the earth. So like all this kind of stuff, we can't really get away with it. But it's to what extent we are comfortable with, right? Like for example, if you actually work in a non-profit, if you can, right? Like we were talking about capacity, are you able to fulfill it? Right? You can, like, if you are like a CEO, if you work in a non-profit as a CEO, you could just launch like an investigation, like, okay, we'll cut off all this kind of stuff. But if you're just at a middle level, then there's so many bosses on top, and they say, oh yes, we want money from all the weapons of mass destruction company so that we can right what is wrong, because they make all the money from all those, and we will use the money to go and do good. But yet it's based on perspective, right? And intent. And the capacity that we can actually be involved with. So like and also I think it's karmic. If you actually have to move from one place that you don't think is suitable spiritually, and you move into another place that is pretty evil as well, then this is where we have to work out our karma, because maybe we have to be there for a while, and there are some stuff for us to do. And then when we are ready to move on, the opportunity will come. I think there is a good balance between how we can decipher and how we can judge our situation and what the universe is ready to give us. There's a good balance. So we have to try and plan, but then yet do not be attached to it. It's pretty difficult. I think there's a lot about what the spiritual path is or not.
So I think that, when you mentioned that the donations that, let's say the international headquarters receiving, they don't know who the donator are, who are the donors. Are they in good business? Are they doing good business? Or they actually doing cruel business or something like that? This is something that we cannot control. So when it comes to the consequence, let's say if we want to select, we just want to receive donations from this business, this and that, and we don't want to receive donation from this business, this and that. And at the end of the day, you have little donation. So how you can feed the kids, how you can get the schools going, how you can get the headquarters running, how about all the employees who their lives has been reliant on the work of the TS. So I think that, as Francis said, it's super difficult. And I don't think that we up to the level of the masters who they can calculate or consider every single aspect. If I say a word with what that means, if I say something. So just do the best that we can. And I do believe in what Sweat say, that the motivation is the most important thing. Let's say if a donor, he's been doing slaughterhouse business, whatever, and somehow he become a TS member, we have no right to judge him at all. It's his karma to become a TS member, and maybe it's his goodwill that he wants to donate money to the headquarters to do some good. So who are we to stop them from trying to be good at least once in their life? So this is something very, subjective. We cannot really control this part.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point. We can't really be sure if we can't really judge it at our level, I think. I think that's a better way to put it.
But
And
yeah, I again I didn't really have a judgment on this kind of situation. But I've also noticed that people who engage in charity, there's a certain self-righteousness. Oh, I'm doing all this good, and I'm on the right path. But it's never really always quite right. There's always something colored. So one should, like the thing I just mentioned, what kind of sources or resources are you using to do your good? So you should always be careful that you don't get what's the word? Uh, yeah, you don't feel self-righteous, or you don't feel too content with what you're
Yeah,
doing,
I
even if
think
I just want to add to that if it's okay.
yeah, of course.
Just this thought, you can do a good by being very, happy about it yourself, and it's like, yeah. But the thing is, and then you noticed, okay, if I do this way, I would. This is for for myself more than to those others. But in that sense, you should still do it. Like start with the selfish good deeds, and then they become less selfish, and then
You should do it, but you should always look to evolve
exactly.
in your
And that's what I was thinking. The job opportunities also, like I was working, and then I noticed but what I'm working is actually not what I believe in myself or how I live myself. So if the opportunity came, I changed my job, and if it came again, I changed again. But every time it was a kind of the money wasn't the first perspective for me. It was always that this will be something that's now with my theosophical understanding that I can kind of live with. But also the good deed is good deed, even if it's a selfish good deed, and we all start with selfish good deeds, and because and this is then what is the difference between pure good deed and selfish good deed? It's in a next life or whatever the karmic consequences is coming. There's more benefit of this pure good deed, but selfish good deeds also gives some benefit, and it helps you. Whatever you do helps you to do the same kind of thing in the future, and yeah.
No, of course, a good deed is a good deed, but you should always look to transition to a purer intent.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the pure intention, that's what I said for the beginning. We don't have the third eye to see whether that person's motivation is pure or not. This is all inner work. And for one individual inner work, they are the one who can decide for themselves. So you can hope, but you cannot force them, and we cannot demand them to do so, because the lesson needs to be learned at the right time. And I do believe in what Marika say, even if whatever you do is good and is selfish, let's do it first, because it's already good. Let's do something good, even though you're still selfish, but that's fine, because karma follows, right? Karma will know exactly this person, the motivation is selfish and he did some good. So there will be the consequences like this or that. Karma will do the work. We don't need to worry about it. But all we need to do is that try to do the good as much as we can. And maybe one day karma time is right. We learn the lesson. I realized that 10 years ago, what I did, it was good, but it was so selfish. This is our inner work. Nobody can do it for us. Nobody can realize anything except themselves.
I think that's a good point. That's where this part, the previous passage, is about, right? the first step is not taken only once, but over and over again. And I think every time we go over, we'll be like what Vignesh says. We are doing more and more of the due diligence to make sure that whatever we do is at least a little bit purer than before. And of course, as we grow older, we will go into positions of authority, and then you can actually choose which donation you want to collect from. Right, Mr. Treasurer.
But then, okay, if later on, this is okay, this is last question. I'm curious. Let's say 20 years later, Vignesh is gonna be the international president of
Oh, no, thank you,
yeah,
please.
let's say, for example, I don't say it's gonna come true, I just say for example. And then you have the right to decide where donations coming from. You're gonna have the right to decide. So let's say there are three companies. They come to you, A, B, C. Company A is an oil company. Company B is a vegetable company. Company C is a retail company, something like that. And you will say, I don't like oil. I won't get donations from them. Then if I'm still a TS member, and then during the international convention, I will raise a question to our current international president, Vignesh, that who do we think we are that we reject the goodness from the oil company? If the Buddha or if the Jesus Christ is here, do you think they will reject anyone?
Who says I'm rejecting the oil company?
Yeah, take all three, of course.
I'll
mean,
take the oil.
where's the
I'll
question?
take the money from the oil company, and then I'll invite them to the convention, and maybe they become TS members.
Yes.
Maybe
Yes.
transition. Maybe
Yes.
they transition to Sulan.
Yes, so we don't need to worry about where's the money coming from.
No, I don't think so. We have to be super worried about how we spend them, because that's our karma, that's our responsibility. But where it comes from,
No, what I was trying to say was we need to be mindful of. It's just not what we do with the money. We also need to be mindful of where it's coming from, the people it's coming from. Maybe we, like I said, maybe we kind of try and influence things on that end as well. We try to work with the people who are supporting us, and we try to make a change in that sense also.
Yeah, if you receive the money from the oil company, you may convert him into
you don't just sit satisfied with what you're doing in a limited sense. You try to keep refining and evolving in your work. Is what I was trying to do.
Also, I think sorry, Chris. Also, I think one important thing is give other people possibilities to do good karma. If this oil company have money, they better give it to us, and we can do more good things than they give it to some other. I don't know.
Or if you know another NGO who has better reach and who can do work that you can't, you direct them to that NGO. Yeah.
So to help people to do good karma, I think this is always a good thing. Like whoever they are, whether they are butcher or the oil company or whatever, if they want to do and you have a possibility, it's always good to direct and help them.
Thank you, Chris. Last comment.
Chris is freezing.
Yeah.
Frozen.
He's got disconnected again. He keeps coming in and out. Okay, maybe I was just oh yeah, dropped off. Maybe unstable internet. But I think all the points are really relevant, right? I think there is a saying. There could be someone that donated money, of course, like for selfish reason, to build a park, to create a park. But then, what happened? But then, even though it is selfish, but the trees in the park in the future will give shade to the people that needs it. So like At least we are spiritually laundering the money. We take it from somewhere, might not be going to good place. We take it and then we put it to use, but more morally well to use functions. And I think something that I think even Australian section, even the Sydney Lodge as well, when they actually have their money invested, I think most of the lodges, there are some lodges that does investments so that they keep the money useful in a sense. They actually stopped investing. They stopped investing into oil and gas. They only like go for all the really green stuff. And then there are people that questions, why do you choose to invest in something that doesn't give us more money? There were members that asked. But the answer was given is that if we are actually not even doing this, then what kind of TS we are? Are we? You know? But of course, it's subjective. Subjective. Chris, are you back for action? You are the last comment.
Yeah, sorry, my internet keeps cutting in and out. I don't think I was able to capture all of the discussions. I was only able to catch so for example, what if an oil company wanted to invest in TS? I think it's not just because they're an oil company, they're already bad. I think we also need to talk to them why they want to invest in TS. And then just because they're an oil company doesn't mean that they're not doing any efforts to like lessen their emissions or their footprint. Maybe there's also a reason why they want to work with TS. Maybe they also are aware that they have to do good things. And in that case, it's okay, I think, if TS wants to work with them because ultimately they also have a good intention to reach a greater goal. But if they just want to like they just want to donate to TS because they want tax exemptions. Well, we have to think about it. We have to check the overall structure, not just because they're an oil company, we have to say no. Just because they're into logging, we have to say no. I think we also have to look at the bigger picture of it all. And then I was not able to capture all of the discussions earlier, but I think in earning a living honestly and usefully, I just wanted to add that, for example, in my earlier example in the butcher, so we're not judging that what they're doing is wrong. And I agree with you that if karma has placed them in that position, then probably that's the best that they can do. And if we're placed in that position, then we have to do our best in that job. But I think the golden stairs is addressed for the spiritual aspirant. So there might be a little bit more light. And in theosophy, we say that truth is that which compels. So if, for example, you like what you've mentioned, you're a butcher, and then you suddenly have a realization that what you do no longer aligns with what your principles are, then you have to leave. But if that light is not yet open, then I guess it's for that time being, while it's still not open, it's the best that you can do.
Wow, very well summed up. Thank you, Chris. I think the last comment, okay, before we close. I think like Vignesh was talking about a butcher in Alaska. I think if one day he realized that he is not meant to be a butcher, I think if he walk along the coast, he might see a boat or ship. He will just ship him right somewhere else. There is there when
But
there is
what
a
if
will.
what if he's the last butcher in the line of butchers, and if he leaves, the people go hungry?
This is a good point.
He should stay.
This is a good point. This is something that I also ask myself. Am I so arrogant to say that I'm the only one that can do that job?
Agree.
Am I indisposable? Indispensable, sorry. This is self-importance. The ego.
What if it's the truth? What if he's the only let's say he's the hunter. He's the only one who has the skills to hunt seals or whatever. There's no one else who can do.
Then
No, but we can always like construct a situation where it will not work. There will always be some exception. Yes, I think so.
And not only that, maybe the guy or the lady will have someone that walk to them and say, last night I had a dream. Someone told me to come and learn this skill from you so that you can go far away to far away lands. You never know, right? All these kind of things can happen. And this is what we call a miracle or life-changing moments. And then write a new book or a movie that Harry will make.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just thought of
But
I just
yeah, sorry, Chris. Yeah, you go first.
I just thought of something because I remember in Christian ethics, they say that in order to judge whether something is ethically right or wrong, you always have to look at three things. Like the first one is the motive. So is the hunter trying to kill his prey out of fun, out of sport, or he just wants to inflict pain to the animals? Or is he intending to feed his family? Because if he doesn't hunt, they won't have any food to eat, and there's no other alternative. So if we look at that, at the intention, then it kind of looks different, right? If he's just doing it for fun, or if he really needs it to survive. And then we look at the act itself. So of course, killing itself is is a wrong act, and it will cause us karma. But if it's the only way that they can survive, then they have no choice. They have to bear that karma, but they have to bear it cheerfully, and they have to make a conscious decision that, I have no choice. This is what we have to do. This is what karma gives us. And then lastly, there's also the circumstance. So it doesn't negate the wrong action or the wrong intention, but it makes it worse or it makes it better. So for example, if a student is cheating in a classroom during a quiz, and then the teacher put all the rules in place, and they make sure that everyone is seated like one seat apart, and then they're still find a way to cheat, then it makes it even more detestable, right? It makes it the action even more wrong. But if the classroom is in chaos and the students are in disarray, and the teacher is really doesn't they didn't set any rules, and everything is chaotic, then it makes the action a little bit less detestable, but it's still wrong. But it's still it makes it a little less detestable. So I think in anything, we have to look at all of these three actions, and then at all these three aspects, and then we try to do our best to judge whether something is right or wrong if we on based on these three factors.
Thank you. That's a good one. Okay, the last, the most final one.
That is a wonderful point which you brought up, Christopher, because I think when you're judging, especially certain ethical things, we're all at different levels of privilege, like you said, for somebody somewhere, it could come down to a matter of survival. It could be anything. And for somebody, I mean, for people like us sitting here in an air-conditioned room, talking with Zoom calls and everything, for us, what the ethical, you know, yeah, they are different. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. Yeah, so really wonderful point you brought up.
Your air conditioning room is producing carbon.
That's why I'm trying to spend as little time here as possible. I just came 5 minutes ago.
Okay. Yeah, anyways, the aircon is on because even if you're not here, Vignesh and Medicaid will still use it. So might as well amortize it, amortize the karma.
So America released a lot of carbon into the atmosphere today. And
All right. Okay, so
And by the way, sitting on the chairs wears them out also. So
yes. And then when you breathe,
it
you
is
create more greenhouse gas.
where your mouth is or something.
Okay, so let's have a minute or two of silence, and then we'll end the session. Thank you, everyone. It was a really good session today. And I have to stop recording